We are live. Welcome to Follow the Action. This is the fastest growing podcast on the whole freaking universe. I talked to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He told me this is the best podcast in the universe. He knows all about the universe. He's done all kinds of shows on the universe. He hasn't done shows on podcasts, but he knows we're the best podcast in the freaking universe. Downloaded in over 50 different countries, all 50 states. It is Follow the Action. Don't forget this Saturday, you can find us on our live Twitch stream, which is also named Follow the Action. We'll break down the entire UFC card. We're on social media everywhere. And the reason we are is because we got an all-star panel that is ridiculous. We got the best sports bettor in the world. There ain't nobody second. There ain't nobody third. Fighting out of Philadelphia, it is the Philly Godfather, Steve Maltepes. Godfather, how you doing?
Just pretending to be working out all day, trying to lose some weight, get ready for this big TV contract we got coming up with Follow the Action on this no-carb diet, and we're still firing away, John.
Hell, I'm going to get a facelift and some Botox and maybe a few hair plugs in here. I'm getting ready. He is one half of the college kids. He's been called the future of sports betting. He is Matt. Matt, how are you?
Doing good. I'm ready for these playoff matchups coming up.
I'm ready for him too, but a guy that may not see it because I understand he is involved in the Jerry Falwell pull boy scandal. This man may actually be the pull boy. And no, I'm not talking about you who you think you are. I'm talking about Joy Delicious, Joy Bagels. Apparently at Liberty University, it was bagel time. That's what I'm talking about. It's time. It's time. It's bagel time. Joey Oddessa, how you doing, Joey?
Hey, I'm the second youngest guy on the broadcast here. I'm 50, but I'm still the pool boy, right?
The guy who thought he was the pool boy. He should have been the pool boy. He was once a boyfriend in a box. He is now PGA Tour Live post-game show. That is his show. He's the voice of the PGA Tour. Jonathan Coachman, my old pal. Coach, tell us how to watch PGA Tour Live post-game.
I was really excited. We started a new show this past Sunday. We came right out of the box with Dustin Johnson right after he had won at 30 under par. Jim Furyk, who won the U.S. Open, where they're playing this week. PGA Tour Live's on NBC Sports Gold. Also on Facebook. We're on Twitter. If we're listening internationally, we're all over the world on Golf TV. So we're excited about the show, and I'm really proud of it, too. So thank you.
And you heard about Joey Delicious being perhaps the pull boy at Liberty University, right?
I had a layover in Nashville, and in Tennessee, that's all they're talking about. And the rumors are running rampant. So I don't think there's any question that Joey is somehow involved. I don't want to see him in any kind of Speedo, but there's definitely some – where there's smoke, there's fire.
There's some bagels and cream cheese.
Yeah, you can see Coach wants my spot. Coach wants my spot. He's like imitating me with the Yankee hat this week.
You guys are bandwagon hoppers, man. What the hell? I mean, I guess around 96, you started being a Chicago Bull fan, huh?
Well, when you grow up in Kansas and you have no NBA teams, you're a Kansas Jayhawk fan and then whoever's winning. So, yes, I actually was a Bulls fan in 96, as a matter of fact.
Well, I grew up in West Texas. All I had was Texas Tech football. And those boys were the Red Raiders. They fired.
They fired.
Well, let's get straight to the pull boy because he's here. The man that broke up a marriage, the man that broke up a university, the man who's the best combat sports handicapper in the freaking planet, Joy Delicious, Joy Bagels, Joy Oddessa. Joy, tell us about the UFC coming up this week. But we had some great, crazy things happening last Saturday. We'll get to that. What do we got coming up this week?
11-fight card. This is one of those cards, again, where a lot of people won't recognize these names, but there's some real talent on this card. You know, Robbie Lawler, he's coming back here. He's in here on short notice. But, Lawler started his career in 2001. Think about it. He's only 38 years old. He started real young. He's got, 48 fights under his belt. He's fighting Neil Magny. That's the co-main event. But in the main event, we got a spot here where Alexander Rakic, I hope I said his name right, from Austria, he's fighting Anthony Smith. Now, this Anthony Smith, I think he's been – you talk about right place, right time. Smith has seemed to be in the right place at the right time for his bouts. He had a real close bout with, Hector Lombard was beating him for 2 rounds. He comes back, and that's kind of where he started gaining a little bit of momentum. Walked himself into a fight against John Jones where he got smoked. He could have, Anthony Smith could have been the UFC champ. John Jones kneed him in the face. I think it was the 4th round. It was an 8-8 round, but if Smith just, credit to Smith, for not taking the DQ win. I'd have taken a DQ win. You know what I mean? And just giving him a rematch. Win's a win, man. It's about the money. But anyways, he's in this spot here against Rakic. You know, Smith's taking some real damage. You know, people expect him to beat Glover Teixeira after he beat Gustafsson. I think Rakic beats him. You know, this is one of those bouts where it's a heart test for Rakic. He's gonna, you know, if this goes wrong, Smith's gonna test him because Smith does have heart, but he takes a beating, and he might be there if this, 5-round fight. If this goes wrong, Smith might be there in those late rounds, but I don't see it. I think Rakic will stop him.
Last week, Joey had something on the undercard that was unique. It was the biggest upset in UFC history. You had Agapova, the Kazakhstan fighter, a 12-1 favorite, fighting Shannon Dobson, who was plus, I think, 938 at fight time. And you said, this looks ripe for an upset. The Philly Godfather said when he saw the Kazakhstan girl, Agapova, coming out dancing, he wanted to bet against her. You guys were right. Biggest upset in UFC history. What do you got on the undercard this week?
Well, you know what? I'm liking Alex Caceres. He's fighting a guy from Georgia, not Georgia the state, but Georgia I guess Georgia the country, Tbilisi. Giga Chikadze is his name. Now I butchered the name, I know. But what I'm telling you is
what was his name again, Joey?
Yeah, let's see that one more time.
Giga. I'll go with Giga, okay? I got his
Was
name wrong.
was that the same word for the Ballwells?
Chicka. You're right. But anyways, I think that Alex Caceres might catch the chicken here at dog money. I mean, they bet this kid. He opened minus 170. He's up to like minus 250. And these early moves, I think these early moves are bad. I think this is a winnable fight for Caceres. Giga's got a lot of hype behind him. He fought in Glory. It was like 46-8 or something kickboxing record. But his Glory record was 6-3. So it's not like he was a world beater over there. He got subbed on the Dana White Contender Series like 2 years back. He's 3-0 in the UFC. 2 split decisions though. And the guy he beat by decision was this Rivera kid who was from my neck of the woods in the 845 in New York, downstate New York. And Rivera was on short notice. Rivera got, in defeat. Rivera got, positive reviews and in defeat, went out, won his next bout. But I think that some of these early moves, I don't like these early moves. Neil Magny, there is one that, the number's starting to get a little bit high. Opened up minus 195. He's up to minus 250. The women's fight too. The Korean girl Kim is getting some money. She opened up the Fave opened up there. Grass opened 350. She's down to 310 now. So again, I think this card's a great card. I think Caceres can get there. Neil Magny. Robbie Lawler's been around forever, and like I said, Rakic.
Steve, you're a brilliant guy, and I'm not being facetious when I say that. I mean that from the heart that you are. I respect you very much for your brain power. What do you think the closed caption person is doing right now on that name? Are they just like typing everything in, just like an alphabet, like alphabet explosion?
That's all they can do. I mean, what else can they do? I'm wondering is the other kid a Greek kid, Joey Caceres?
No. He's they call him Bruce Leroy. He's got a big afro and
is he half Greek? Does he eat feta cheese? Does he like Greek salad?
I don't know. That I don't know. He's got 12 bosses, though. Well, that's not really a trait of Greeks, so we're winning. But
Joey, we have our live Twitch show, right before UFC, an hour before the prelims every single Saturday. You guys, and the Philly Godfather break it down in such an incredible way. We go over where the sharp money's going, the public's going. We were talking the main event of last Saturday. Frankie Edgar, I think, surprised a lot of people. Goes down 20 pounds, first time down at bantamweight fight. Is Frankie Edgar going to be around for some time at 135?
It looks like it. I didn't think he was going to win that fight. I had a red pen. I wrote Frankie. I wrote down Munhoz with my red pen. And I had to throw it out, man. I got a green pen this week. Superstitious. I didn't see Edgar. Well, I thought Edgar lost the fight. I gave Munhoz round 1, 3, and 4, which was enough to win. But again, I said during the week, on some other shows that you don't know what you're getting with these judges. And, how could one judge have it 49-46? And I just don't see, I didn't see it 49-46.
We talked about that. Remember, Joe, we talked about that Saturday, the UFC lean. If they're leaning a certain type of way And you sent me the punch numbers, and obviously Munhoz won the fight, when it came to the stats. But visually, the fight looked a lot closer. At worst, I thought it was a draw. At best for us, obviously, if it was a draw, we would have been all right. But visually, it looked like he was just getting off more. He was faster. Even though some of the punches weren't really landed, it looks like he was just doing more. And I think that's all the UFC needed to lean that way, and that's who they really wanted to win. They can push Frankie Edgar more than they can push Munhoz. So I think that UFC lean is definitely real.
But here's what I think real quick, Joey. Let me jump in. That one of my sources inside the UFC told me that the only reason that Frankie Edgar's still fighting is just he gets paid a lot more than other guys at his weight. And if he's not motivated, how is he going to continue to get down to 135, which is an unbelievably hard cut for a guy who'd never done it before? If he's going to fight long enough to win a championship, you're talking 3, 4, 5 fights. And if you're not motivated, how are you going to get down to 135 every single time? I find it very difficult to believe he's going to fight a lot down there.
Well, you know what? He looked like, he was beat up a bit, but, cardio-wise, he probably could have fought another 3 rounds, it seemed. One thing, when we're talking about decisions, though, I wasn't happy with that decision. This Rakic guy who's fighting Anthony Smith, it's funny because he lost his last bout, Rakic did. Rakic lost his last bout by split decision against Volkan Ozdemir. And I know I blew that name, but it doesn't matter. My point that I'm making here is Smith's got a victory over him. Both these guys in the main event each have a loss. But Rakic lost. I don't know anybody. And when I say I don't know anybody, I don't know anybody that didn't have him beating Volkan on the cards. I think he got robbed. He sucked it up. He said, you know what? It's the way the ball bounces. I'm coming back and I'm going to beat Anthony Smith's ass. That's what it pretty much boils down to. I like the fact that he got beat, though, because now he's hungrier. And Anthony Smith, again, Anthony Smith, that John Jones was his Super Bowl. He beat Gustafsson after that, but Gustafsson just got beat by Werdum going up. And Gustafsson, he retired and came back. And I think that Rakic is in a really good spot here. I think the price might be a little high, but I think you'll see some dog money there because Anthony Smith has this, something, this mystique about him about being, a come-from-behind fighter, and everybody likes that kind of an underdog.
Hey, Steve, right before we go, I want to go on to the NBA, and we got the college football future coming up from you at the end. But real quick, not talking necessarily about Frankie Edgar and Pedro Munhoz, but when you're handicapping a fight, you handicap a lot of boxing. You're an old boxer yourself. You train fighters. You have to take in the fact when you're betting on somebody what the judges are and who the crowd favorite is, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to boxing, you just look in the corner, and you see if one fighter has 5 cornermen and the other guy's got 2, well, the guy with the 5 cornermen is usually with the promoter. And that's the side. That's the A side. And there's always a B side. Now, that's where a lot of research comes in, and you got to know who the B side is. And maybe he's coming in undervalued. Maybe he had a couple personal problems. He hasn't fought in a couple years. But you look at his amateur background, how he did in the amateurs. Did he win any national golden gloves? Who his trainers are. Who he's fought, how he's performed. Does he have power? Because as we all know, like the great Tyson said, you get punched in the face, it changes your whole game plan. So usually the team with the promoter is the A side, and that's what you got to look out for.
The ace team that has been there for so long in the NBA has been the Los Angeles Clippers. They're the team that everybody's saying their favorite. The Dallas Mavericks have shown up. Luka hits that three-pointer, and as a Dallas Maverick fan, unbelievable. It's amazing what this young kid has done. I say kid when you're 53 years old. Everybody seems to be a kid that's under 30. But the college kids, Matt, what you have something going on with the NBA looking forward as to what to bet on, what series to look at. What have you got?
Yeah, so as of right now, Milwaukee's versus Orlando. They're up 3-1. I'm expecting, and the odds are in their favor to win the series. So going on, they're going to be versus the Miami Heat, and it's a very interesting series for me. I think Miami has a great shot against them. When we looked at 3 times they versed, the first time Miami went to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee, without Jimmy Butler, took them to OT and beat them, I believe, 131-128, if I'm not mistaken. Second time they versed, Jimmy Butler actually played, and they ended up beating this Milwaukee team that was the golden standard in the NBA, best record. They ended up beating them by 16 points. They put down a beating on them. The last game they played against each other was in the bubble in the regular season. Jimmy Butler did not play for Miami, so as expected, they lost by, I believe, 13. But when we look at the Milwaukee team, ever since they got in the bubble, they've had some troubles. They went 3-5 in the regular season bubble, and now when you go to the playoffs, you look at them, and they're the only favorite in the East that didn't sweep their opponent. We look at Miami, they won 4-0. We look at the Raptors 4-0, Boston 4-0, and they actually let a struggling Magic team themselves, who they actually went 3-5 in the bubble, they let them take game one. So I think that shows signs of trouble for the Milwaukee Bucks coming up. And let's look at the competition they're versing. They're versing the worst team. It's the 8th seed. It's not like Indiana was versing Milwaukee, and Indiana took a game. Versus Miami, and they took a game. Well, Miami actually 4-0'd them, and Milwaukee couldn't do that against the 8th seed team in the East, which is the worst playoff team in the East. So we have also George Hill. He came in saying the other day we shouldn't have even came to this damn place, to be honest, talking about the bubble. So some of these players might not be motivated to play. Some of these players actually might not be wanting to be there anymore. If they're not wanting to be there anymore, then their whole thought process and everything, their will to win just isn't there. And if that happens, then that's what's trouble for this team. And the only struggle that I have with this Miami team is Jimmy Butler just got hurt. Now they're saying it's nothing serious, that he's going to be fine coming into this next series against Milwaukee. It's a soft tissue injury to the shoulder. That's the only thing scaring me a little bit. So I'm waiting for more information to hit the market and for us to get more information. But as of right now, I'm looking to bet Miami, depending on the series price, to win the series. And for the first game, assuming Jimmy Butler is fine and he has no injuries, he's fine, he's fully healthy, ready to go, I'm expecting this line to come out around 6, maybe a half point off, and I'm looking to bet Miami.
And it looks like if you have a 3-0 team, a lot of time you have the home team wants to at least win one for the home crowd. You don't have that now because of the bubble, according to what you're saying. So it changes how you look at series-ending games, right?
It changes everything. It changes everything in a series when you don't have home court. Now, some teams play better off the home, like Milwaukee. They're awesome at home. They're also awesome on the road. But right now in this bubble, we have a Chris Middleton who's struggling. He can't play. He's not playing well in the playoffs so far. So that's another thing to add into it. Chris Middleton, the number 2, he's not being the number 2 right now. He's not playing up to standard. So, yeah, home court is important as well.
One thing that is so important down there, also Philly Godfather, is coaching, obviously. Nick Nurse, I believe, is Coach of the Year. And unbelievable that you lose a player like Kawhi Leonard and you're still a team that could be going to the finals again. It's insane. You have something with the Toronto Raptors, right?
Well, both these teams, Toronto and Boston, they swept their first-round matchups. Toronto played a weaker Brooklyn team. Boston played a solid Sixers team, but they were without Ben Simmons, so that helped them out a lot. It seems like both these teams are clicking on all cylinders. The series price originally opened up basically a pick-up -110 on either side. And surprisingly, it shifted up to as high as the Raptors -150, even though the Celtics have beaten them 3 out of the 4 times this year. And with the news of Kyle Lowry with the left ankle sprain, you got a 6-time All-Star who's averaging 19 points a game, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. And the market hasn't reacted yet. The line's still -150. So basically what that tells me is he's going to be okay. Because if there was any inclination that he wasn't going to play, you'd see this line move immediately the other way. He's so big to that team. This is one of those series where it's going to a lot of defense here. You're going to see a lot of defense here in the playoffs. Toronto ranks 2nd in defensive efficiency, while Boston ranks 4th. And if you look at the way both these teams play, there's a lot of star power on both sides of the ball here. Like you said, with Toronto, you got Siakam, you got Van Fleet, you got Lowry. Hopefully he's healthy. And meanwhile, on Boston's side, you have Tatum, Kemba Walker, and Jaylen Brown. But the difference in this series won't just be the stars, in my opinion. I think it's going to be the role players. I think it's going to be the guys off the bench. I think it's going to be the guys surrounding those key guys. And if that's the case, that doesn't bode well for the Celtics here, considering the fact that they lost Gordon Hayward off the bench. He was always good for 14, 15 points a game, 13 points a game. So while on the surface, Boston may look like they're stacked with guys like Tatum, Brown, and Kemba, I mean, the guys behind them, they're not that good. And if you look at Toronto, they have multiple guys on the bench that can be a difference maker during the game on any given night. And Boston really doesn't have that luxury. The problem with Boston isn't just that they're not a deep team. They also don't feature a big lineup other than Cantor. I mean, they're kind of small. And Toronto's a great rebounding team. I mean, it's going to be a major advantage for them in this series on the boards with Gasol, Ibaka, Siakam. I think the bench and the rebounding advantage for Toronto, as long as Lowry's healthy, I think it gives them the edge here. And, I mean, the Raptors got 3 guys on that team with like 7'3" wingspans. It's a big advantage with those rebounds. I like Toronto here as long as Lowry's healthy.
I like it too, and I think you talk about motivation. There's so much motivation. Toronto's been there longer than anybody else, and every single game they look like they're playing with a lot of emotion. So we'll keep an eye on the NBA as it continues through the playoffs later this weekend. We'll get to college football in a little bit. We'll get to golf. We've got the second leg of the FedEx Cup coming up in a little bit, but let's take a left turn real quick. And Johnny, as the lockdown and pandemic continues into its 6th month now, there are so many things that because of sports are kind of getting pushed by the wayside. I want to ask you about currency and cryptocurrency as so many things are changing in this world. Do you think that cryptocurrency is going to become more common across the board?
No, I don't, Coach, and I'll tell you why. I got to interview a while back Mike Novogratz. He's a billionaire hedge fund guy, really good guy. He started up as far as philanthropic work, Beat the Streets. He helped us out in Memphis, give kids a bunch of computers for remote learning. Really good human being. Beat the Streets is a wrestling program out of New York, Philadelphia, a lot of different cities. Mike's the main benefactor for that. But I asked Mike, who's made a lot of money in crypto, I said, is crypto a store of value or is it a currency? And he said, store value, without hardly thinking. Now, he may change that a little bit, as he goes on. I don't want to take him completely out of context, and hopefully I'm not. But that is a big difference between what crypto is being used for. Is it being used for a store of value, or is it being used as, say, fiat currency like the U.S. dollar? Here's the reason I don't think it's going to be used like the U.S. dollar for the next 20 to 30 years. So think about this, Coach. The only way to trace cryptocurrency is the on-ramp and the off-ramp. So when I buy the cryptocurrency, you see my credit card, you see my PayPal, you see however I buy it with, that's registrable. But as long as that's cryptocurrency then is just being changed with cryptocurrency to other people, there's no way to trace it. The only way is the off-ramp where you want to cash out. So a lot of cryptocurrency started with trying to get money out of China. That was the big run-up. People wanted to get it out. They put it in cryptocurrency. But that's hard to trace. You put money in the Chinese yuan, you pull it out in the Canadian dollar or the U.S. dollar, some other currency. That's hard to trace. That was a lot of the crypto. But as far as becoming a fiat currency itself, here's the issue with that. There's no sales tax. So if I'm buying something from you, if I'm paying you for something, it's not traceable. So there's no way for a government to tax that. We don't have the regulatory infrastructure for that. So a government loses all of that tax revenue if everybody's using crypto and not self-reporting, which is hard to believe they will do when the regulatory infrastructure is not there. So governments become insolvent. And look at central banks. They control the ebb and flows of currency. They control inflation. So you want inflation to increase a little bit. Generally, central banks like it around 2%. If it's too low, you have stagflation. You want to increase inflation. You print more money. So you make money worth less. You make products worth more. You have to pay more dollars for it, more for a same item, which causes inflation. If you can't control the currency because it's crypto and it's an algorithm, central banks become worthless. So you have two government institutions. You have a government tax base become insolvent, and you have central banks become worthless. Politicians, I'm not a big fan of, but the one thing they do is they survive. They're not going to allow something like this to happen. Now, you can't ban, the Supreme Court has already ruled, you can't ban us owning cryptocurrency, but you can do things like you can say, okay, you can't use it for certain things. You can ban transactions. You can ban the getting into cryptocurrencies. You can do that. And I think that's what governments will do. So I don't think it's going to become a currency, but that doesn't mean that I'm against cryptocurrency. Just understand what you're investing in. It's a store of value like gold. So it is a safe haven. It is a place to put your money. Just understand what you're investing in. The one thing that's great about cryptocurrency, Coach, is going to be remittances. So when you send money to different places around the country, you're no longer going to have to pay those fees because it goes into a cryptocurrency algorithm. It comes out of some type of crypto ATM where you come out the off ramp. That's going to change the way money is funneled around the world. Sometimes in nefarious ways, most of the time in good ways that will help people. So online payments, places like Western Union are just going to get killed on this. They're going into digital assets right now. If you want to get ahead of this online payment phase, PayPal to me, it was like it was $100 beginning of the year. It's about $200 now. Western Union, on the other hand, is about $23. It was $23 back in 2006 also. It's been dead money. So there's a reason that you're seeing this go toward online payments. Look for online payments in the future for Facebook, Amazon, Google, Vimeo, WhatsApp, and, of course, places like PayPal. And the way to play it to me was PayPal.
All right, cool. So keep track of that, certainly with stocks to buy. And I know, Johnny, there's a lot of things that are going on right now that are not good because of the pandemic. Quickly tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you're seeing, and this is awful. I mean, you're seeing 54% of storefronts in San Francisco have closed. You're seeing something similar in New York City. We're having a lot of problems coming up. I mean, people are going to really have to be careful with their money going forward. I would stay out of anything that has much risk. Look at dividend stocks, and they're going to become de facto bonds. But you're going to see, for instance, 38,000 gyms in the country is typical of small business. At least a third are going to go bankrupt. I mean, this is a tough time, and once government stimulus stops, and it has to stop at some point, the world's in for a tough time. Certain things are going to keep going, Walmart, Amazon, but you're going to have a lot of trouble going forward. Fortunately, we've got a lot of sports, which is what we do, not to put a downer on stuff. You know, there's always something bright out there. And, Coach, you got the BMW Championship this week up in Illinois. You have been absolutely on fire with golf.
Yeah.
What do you got for us this week?
Well, it's really an honor to be able to be with one of the organizations that was the leader in coming back from the lockdown and continues to. The ratings are sky high. They're absolutely dunking on every other sport right now, which is pretty cool. This past weekend, we went from 125 down to 70. Now, this is a course, guys, that hasn't played a PGA Tour event there since 2003. Now, on the new show, PGA Tour Live Postgame, we had Jim Furyk on, and he talked about what he hopes the setup will be this week. He says, I don't want it to be a U.S. Open because that's very difficult, and we've got the U.S. Open coming up in 3 weeks. But he wants to play very difficult, unlike last week when Dustin Johnson was 30 under par. So with that thought process in mind, you couple it with the fact that there's been several players over the years in the playoffs that have caught fire and won back-to-back events. 3 names, Bryson DeChambeau, Billy Horschel, and Rory McIlroy. So I normally, on this show, I never recommend putting money down on the betting favorite. I do this week. Dustin Johnson came in, and he's going to come in the favorite again, plus 800, which is very low, I know. But I think he's going to be so red hot. And you're only talking about 70 players, not the normal 156 or 125. So you might put a little bit of money on Dustin Johnson. But when I saw some of these numbers come out this week, guys, I could not believe it. I feel like I'm stealing money this week. I really, really do. So I'm going to give you 4 bets. So make sure you write them down. The first one, Bubba Watson, minus 135 over Mark Leishman. Leishman barely made it into the top 70. He was plus 6 last week. Couldn't hit the ball left, couldn't hit the ball right, couldn't hit the ball straight, couldn't hit it at all. Bubba Watson played very well. He was a top 15 last week. John Rahm had a great Sunday. He was a top 10 as well. Minus 125 over Justin Thomas. Now, I understand JT, number 2 in the FedEx Cup, but he's been very erratic. Either he wins or he just kind of plays. And right now he's kind of playing. John Rahm has his A game. I take him over Justin Thomas. Dustin Johnson, unbelievably, is an underdog to Bryson DeChambeau, the same guy who missed the cut last week, the same guy we've been fading for the last month, because Vegas believes in Bryson DeChambeau so much, it doesn't believe you can go back-to-back. I'm betting the house on DJ over Bryson for the tournament.
The whole house.
The house. The entire house.
This is a house bet.
Yes. This is the biggest bet I've ever made on golf. I'm going to make it on Dustin Johnson.
This will be house money like no one ever did when you bet the house.
That's correct. And also I want to piss off Joey, so I know how much he hates house money. So I'm going to bet house money just to upset him. And then finally, I mentioned the U.S. Open being played here back in 2003. It's a difficult golf course. I'm going with a guy who's a grinder, a guy who really digs in deep. He puts a big chaw on his cheek, and I'm talking about Kevin Kisner. He's literally a bulldog. He went to Georgia. He is just minus 110 over Victor Hovland, one of the three young studs. Victor Hovland has never been this far before. It's his first year. He's a rookie. He's in the top 70, yes, but this is uncharted territory for him. You give me Kevin Kisner at this price, I'm taking it all day. I cannot wait to go 4-0 this week.
Coach, one big question. Last week, we were trying to get hold of you. You had Joey Delicious. He was texting you. The Philly Godfather was texting you. The college kids, I think, were even texting you. Everybody, and you put us on mute and would not answer all weekend. We almost started having prayers for you, Coach. Put an APB on you.
Well, it's one of those situations where when you do a show with four of the most immature individuals, including myself, on planet Earth, I knew at some point you guys weren't going to stop texting. I was actually in a meeting with my new show with some of the top execs at the PGA Tour. And I'm reading stuff about Tigers, whatever, and I finally had to put it on mute because I felt like I was going to lose my job over you clowns. And that's something that I will not allow. So I apologize. You're now off of mute. Of course, until this week when I've got to do it all over again. But, again, I apologize.
You don't feel bad muting us for a couple days, Coach?
No.
And you're going to do it again this weekend. Coach, we're your friends.
If you were my friends, you would know I'm doing a PGA Tour event, and you would stop texting that stuff.
I texted Joey live when I was doing WWE television.
SummerSlam.
Wait. So you're comparing me calling Tiger Woods at a PGA Tour event to you doing a WWE event, which obviously I was there for a long time too. But you're
damn right I am.
You're
damn right I am.
How about
this much bigger?
This attitude of coach's elite attitude over the WWE, golf over WWE.
You're damn right.
That's what he said. Golf over WWE. I don't buy that, Coach.
Wow.
I'm a professional golf announcer. You're damn right I think I'm better than everybody else. Only for 4 days a week, just Thursday through Sunday. That's it.
And we get you the rest of the time? Is that what it is?
Yeah. See, I'm wearing my daughter's shirt today. Proud dad of a freaking awesome daughter. So, yeah.
Words hurt, Coach. Words hurt.
So I won't do it again.
Mutinous hurts too.
It does hurt. I tell you what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the guy who's the best sports bettor in the world. He's a legend, and he doesn't put us on mute, Joey. Not ever. He doesn't put us on. He doesn't. That man's got more things going than like 18 different people all at the same time. And when we text him, Joey, he answers because he's our friend.
He replies. He texts back. He's not hobnobbing with Tiger and all these guys. Ugh.
It's shocking.
I get up.
Let me go to the Philly Godfather here.
Yeah, go to the Godfather.
Is there a way to put Coach on mute? I'm kidding, Coach. It's okay. We got college.
Done anyway.
We got our first college game coming this Saturday. Unbelievably, the game is actually being an FCS game. But you have it looks like the college football season is going to take off. I certainly hope it does. I'm the biggest college football fan maybe in the world. You've got a college football future for us from what I understand. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, anytime I'm looking to take a future in the NFL or in college football, I look at the coach, the quarterback, the coaches surrounding the team. Last year we were on LSU at Agaran. You had Joe Brady. You had Joe Burrows on LSU, and you knew that team was going to be good. We didn't expect it to be that great, but we ended up catching that ticket. This year, I'm looking at the Florida Gators. I haven't fired on them at plus 900 to win the SEC yet. I'm still waiting on some information. And to be honest, it's a little difficult when you got Alabama, you got Georgia, you got LSU in front of you. But the over 7 wins, I think, gets there as long as they don't slip up against a bad team on their schedule. And if they can beat Texas A&M on the road, after Texas A&M plays Alabama. So they're a little bit lucky there. They get Texas A&M after they play Alabama. I think it's a great spot for Florida the following week. And if you look at Texas A&M and Florida, they have the same Vegas projected win total set at 7. But the Gators, in my opinion, are the better team. And the market basically reflects that as well, with Florida having the fourth best odds to win the SEC at plus 900 and A&M's at plus 1,400. Now, they also have a shot of beating LSU at home this year. This team played LSU last year tough in Week 7. They lost 42-28. Trask threw for over 300 yards. He actually had more passing yards than Joe Burrows in that game. Now you subtract Joe Burrows and the 30 other players that LSU lost from last year's roster, they definitely got a shot to make that happen. LSU also lost their great offensive coaching mind in Joe Brady. He went to the Carolina Panthers. So that really hurts this team. You look at the teams they play other than A&M, LSU, and Georgia this year, and there's really nobody there that scares you. The bad teams are really bad on their schedule with the combined average win total right around 3.2 wins on the season. I think Florida has the right quarterback to make some noise this year in Trask. I'm waiting for some Heisman odds to come out because he's definitely going to be there at the end of the year. He played great lights out last year down the towards the end of the schedule. Threw for 300 yards in 3 of his last 4 games. Finished with 25 TDs and only 7 interceptions. He's going to be playing actually much better this year. This team is stacked. I really like Dan Mullen. He's a local guy. He was actually born at the same hospital as I was in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. He won a state championship for Trinity High School in New Hampshire. This guy's a proven winner. If you look at the quarterbacks that he's coached, Alex Smith, Dak Prescott, Tim Tebow, he was under the Ohio State coach. God, I just lost what's his name?
Ryan, right? Ryan.
No. What's his name?
Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer.
He was under him, so he learned a lot from that. He was 69-46 at Mississippi State. He's 21-5 at Florida. I like their defensive coordinator, Todd. I think his name is Todd Grantham. Florida's defense has been one of the top, one of the best in the nation over the last 2 years. I mean, to me, over 7 wins definitely has a shot. If you look at the most returning production, when you look at the players that they lost, Florida and Georgia ranked 60th in college football, while Alabama's ranked 88th and LSU is 126th. So Alabama and LSU lost a ton of stars. They lost a ton of guys on that team from the previous year. Alabama, I mean, they lose Judy, they lose Ruggs, they lose Tua. Nick Saban's amazing, but they lost some key components on that team, and LSU lost, like I said, 31 players from last year's roster. So Florida, if the moons align and Trask plays lights out like he's supposed to, you watch out for this Florida team this year.
You know, the difference between Urban Meyer and God is God never thought he was Urban Meyer.
I can't believe I forgot his name. He's one of my favorite coaches.
True story. When he came to work at ESPN between Florida and Ohio State, he used to bring his agent to the studio every week when he would work. He always had, it's the only time in my entire career that I've seen a talent bring his agent with him every time he came to the studio. I couldn't believe it.
What I heard, though, about Urban Meyer, apparently a true story. He never put anybody on mute.
John, where do you place Urban Meyer? Where do you place Urban Meyer? You got Saban, Meyer. Where do you place those guys?
I think he's got to. You know, he has a lot of issues with some players in his programs, but to me he's like a hair under, say, a Saban, a Dabo Swinney, but he's in the same conversation with them in the same grouping. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He is a great coach.
Doesn't Swinney and Saban have a little edge? They're always getting the much better players going to Alabama and Clemson. I mean, isn't it tougher for him to get those players?
Well, you got to remember, he's done it at 3 different places. So it was like the medium at Utah and then Florida and then Ohio State. I think the reason Saban and Dabo are considered better is they're locked in, and they've been at one place, for several years now. And Saban did it at 2 really big places. For whatever reason, there was always a reason for it, but Urban Meyer always moved on after a few years, almost like he got bored or there was a heart issue or whatever the case might be. And now he quits, and he's still at every practice and every game at Ohio State. You know he's going to be back on the sideline at some point.
Coach, doesn't he have a restaurant or a bar or something that's like 6 times? That's the name of it. Because how many times he beat Michigan? Seriously, I've heard that.
I don't know.
He named it after. I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
Urban Meyer's a great coach. I'm just teasing about the fact, that came from a Florida State alum that loved to hate him when he was at Florida.
And if you're talking about a guy, I would rather be Dabo and Nick, because when you're in college, and you guys know this, when you're in these little towns like Tuscaloosa or Clemson, you are literally a god. And so to ever leave these places, it's got to be either something's really bad or you just get bored and you want to move on, because Dabo's never leaving Clemson and Saban's never leaving Alabama. It's just too much fun there. Too good there. They're making $10 million
They're
a
getting
year.
paid a fortune, and the cost of living is nothing.
Zero. No doubt. Can you guys imagine real quick? Can you imagine what it's going to be like when you're the Big Ten teams this weekend and you're watching college football on TV and it actually works and everybody's okay and we're going to play next weekend? Yep. I would be irate. If I was part of them.
I completely agree with you, Coach. Philly Godfather, you had LSU. You mentioned that you had them. What odds did you have last year on that ticket you cashed? I want to give you a little chance here you made me a lot of money, so I'd like you to brag about it a little bit.
They were 40-1 to win it all, plus 1,400 to win the SEC, and plus 450 to make the playoffs last year.
Unbelievable. And when you told me about it, I was sitting there looking at it. I thought, I don't know. I bet it, of course, because you said to. But the more the season went on, the more you realize that this guy's a hell of a coach, and this quarterback is just a once-in-a-lifetime player, or at least once in a –
I think Joe Brady was a big part of that, and he's going to Carolina. I think he's the offensive coordinator now at the Panthers. He had a lot to do with how that offense was run. And that's why you're always looking at coach and you're always looking at quarterback. And I don't know if Burrows would have been that good without Joe Brady on the sideline last year.
I think he's the best young coach in America. And they had like two guys running the offense, but he was the one that was essentially calling the shots. He's young, and he is super, super smart, for sure.
There's a clip on the internet of them trying to close caption Orgeron as he's talking. It's one of the funniest things ever. It was like Joey trying to pronounce that Georgian fighter.
I just want to say, I wonder what's going to happen when you guys are challenged with something other than Bubba Watson, Dustin Johnson, Burrows, DeChambeau. Okay, credit the coach on that, but he's only heard it on the air 1,000 times. I mean, you guys, there's no names here. You guys aren't challenged at all. And when you are challenged, I'm going to pull you to the carpet.
Joey, here's a little secret when I was at ESPN that I used to do. There's two things. First, don't admit that you think you did it wrong. Just say it and move on. And also, if you think you did it wrong, be like Joe Burrows. Be like, Joe Burrows. So then you just slide through the name, and then nobody knows. Nobody knows. Yeah, exactly. You just don't
always
call
mess
on
up his name for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because when he speaks, he confuses me. Sometimes I don't know what he's saying. I always screw his last name up. I don't know why. But this Florida team with Trask, let me tell you something. He's probably the best quarterback in the SEC. And watch out for him at the end of the year in that Heisman voting, man. He's going to be there. Florida's stacked. This is a sneaky team. I don't know if they can beat Georgia and Alabama, but they're going to give them a run for their money this year.
Well, there you have it. That is our show. It is Follow the Action, and this week we got tons of things going on. Mr. Joey Oddessa, besides the problem that you got going on at Liberty University, what else you got going on this week?
Well, I'm just looking at this card, and I'm saying to myself, all these early moves, this is not like the Contender Series where you could just jump on that steam. I think some of these early moves are going to go down. I think it's a great card. Last week I thought it was a great card, and look what happened. All kinds of late replacements and things. I don't know. The COVID testing, we'll see. It's a crapshoot going into the weekend.
And, Coach, what's the one thing that you're looking forward to this week?
I'm looking forward to Dustin Johnson repeating at the BMW. He's going to not win by 11 this week, but he's going to win.
Philly Godfather, the one thing you're looking forward to this week sports-wise?
I'm going to be doing a lot of reading on these Lakers if they play Houston in the next series, which I think they will. I mean, these two teams are polar opposite. The styles are completely different. So I'm just going to try to identify an edge. And right now I'm leaning to Houston if these two teams played and if Westbrook was healthy. And I think that I might have to hedge my bet, that 20-1 future I have on the Lakers. If they end up playing the Rockets, I might have to hedge that bet.
And, Matt, are the college kids, are you still with us? I know we're having – there we are. What's the one thing sports-wise you're looking forward to this week?
I'm waiting for Milwaukee to wrap up the series with Orlando. And from there, I'm waiting for the series price to come out in the Milwaukee-Miami series. And depending on the price, I'm probably going to be most likely making a wager on Miami to win the series.
Well, there you have it. That is Follow the Action for Mr. Joey Oddessa. For the coach, for the Philly Godfather, the legend himself, and for the college kids, we fire like white earth. Have a great week and good luck.